My parents wanted me to breed an army of white babies. My name's Claire, I'm 18, and my parents tried to turn me into a breeding machine. That sentence sounds insane even as I write it, but I swear it's the truth. My whole life, I thought my family was eccentric. Old money weird. My mom, Helen 52, talked about heritage, the way other people talk about religion. My dad, Martin 55, used to make us stand straight against the wall so he could measure our symmetry. He called it tracking development. I thought it was just their twisted version of parenting, like how they'd freak out if I dated someone with even a hint of foreign ancestry, or how every family gathering somehow turned into a discussion about purity of lineage. Gross, but manageable. Until my 18th birthday. They'd planned this huge family dinner. Fancy china, candles. Ashley, my sister 20, sitting across from me, silent, with a baby bump that looked like it was swallowing her whole. I remember thinking she looked gone, like the light in her had been turned off. Then Mom slid this binder across the table toward me. Thick, heavy, full of laminated profiles. These, she said, smiling like she was handing me college brochures, are your approved matches. I laughed, like out loud. I thought it was a joke, some creepy family genealogy project. But when I saw the pages, photos of men I'd never met, their blood types, IQ scores, genetic compatibility ratings, I felt my stomach turn. Dad's voice was flat when he said, "You'll begin meeting them next week. We've already spoken to their families." I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" And that's when Mom's smile cracked into something sharp. "You're of age now, Claire. It's time to do your part. The bloodline must continue." Ashley flinched, didn't say a word. Her hands were trembling in her lap. They explained everything like it was logistics. A schedule for my courtship period, a fertility timeline, contracts already in progress. And then Mom said something that made my skin crawl. "Your sister's already fulfilled her duty twice. You'll catch up soon." I turned to Ashley. She couldn't meet my eyes. Her lips were shaking. I asked, "You chose this?" And she just whispered, "Please don't fight them." That was the moment the world tilted sideways. When I tried to leave that night, the front door wouldn't open. The locks had been changed. My phone, gone. My laptop, missing. Dad said, "You'll thank us later once you've accepted your purpose." I told him they were insane. He slapped me, hard. Mom just watched, calm, detached. "You're not leaving, Claire," she said softly. "Not until you understand what family means." And that's how my nightmare started. The night I realized my parents weren't protectors. They were owners. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No phone, no car keys, no way out. The house felt different, too clean, too quiet. I walked down the hall barefoot, and every step echoed. Mom was in the kitchen, humming like nothing had happened, whisking eggs in her silk robe. "Morning, sweetheart," she said. "Eat something. You'll need your strength." Dad sat at the table, flipping through paperwork, like this was just another business meeting. "We have a meeting today," he said without looking up. "Your first introduction." I froze. "Introduction to what?" "To your match," Mom answered. "Ethan's family will be here at noon." I laughed again because how denial was easier than terror. "You can't be serious?" Mom didn't even blink. "He's from one of the purest lines left. This union is important." Ashley was standing by the sink, her stomach huge, her eyes hollow. She whispered, "Please don't fight them." I wanted to shake her. "Ash, you're not a prisoner," her voice cracked. "Yes, we are." That was when I realized how far gone she was. At noon, the doorbell rang. Mom smoothed my hair like I was a doll. Dad opened the door to let in a tall man in his 20s, and his parents, all pale and tight-lipped. They didn't even say hello to me. His mother grabbed my chin and tilted my face toward the light like I was livestock at an auction. "Nice symmetry," she said. "Good cheekbones. She'll breed well." Something in me broke. "I'm not," I started, but Mom's nails dug into my arm so hard I bit my tongue. For an hour, they talked about genetic optimization, superior traits, and controlled conception windows. Ethan barely spoke. He just stared at the floor, jaw clenched, eyes full of the same trapped exhaustion I saw in Ashley. After they left, I tried to call 911 from the landline, but there was no dial tone. Dad appeared behind me, quiet and deliberate, and pressed something cold against my wrist, a small black band. "This will make sure you stay safe," he said. "It monitors your location." I ripped it off and threw it. He slapped me again, harder this time, and I fell against the counter. Mom whispered, "You'll go downstairs until you're ready to behave." They led me to the basement. I thought they were bluffing until I saw it. It wasn't a normal basement anymore. It was a room. A sterile white cell with a medical bed, bright lights, cameras in the corners. There were prenatal vitamins on the counter and a small fridge labeled nutrition. Mom kissed my forehead like it was bedtime. "You'll thank us when you're holding your first child," she said softly. Then the locks clicked behind her. I screamed until my throat tore. No one answered, and somewhere above me, Ashley started singing a lullaby, soft, broken, endless. The first night in that basement felt like falling out of time. The lights never dimmed, the cameras hummed quietly, and the air smelled like antiseptic and metal. I curled up on the thin medical bed and tried to convince myself I'd wake up. That this was some psychotic punishment that would end in a few hours. It didn't. The next morning, the door opened. Mom stepped in, holding a breakfast tray, oatmeal, eggs, vitamins, and a glass of orange juice. She was smiling like a TV host. 3 days, she said gently. You'll have 3 days to think. After that, we'll start preparing you properly. Preparing me for what? I asked. Her smile didn't move. Motherhood. She left before I could throw the tray at her. I spent hours pacing, studying every inch of the room. The walls were concrete, smooth, no gaps or loose panels. The single bathroom had no window. There was a vent near the ceiling, too small to crawl through, but I noticed the faint sound of air, and sometimes a voice. Late that night, I pressed my ear against it. I whispered, Ashley? At first, nothing. Then, a rustle. A small, shaky whisper came through. Claire? It was her. I almost sobbed with relief. We whispered like kids hiding under the covers. She told me she'd been down here for 2 weeks once, after she tried to run. Don't fight them, Claire, she said. They'll hurt you. They hurt me. What about the police? I asked. They told everyone I was mentally unstable, she said, voice trembling. They said I tried to kill my baby. No one came. My heart broke in real time. I wanted to reach through that vent and drag her out, both of us barefoot, bloody, running. But instead I whispered, I'm not giving up. The next day, Dad came down with a clipboard. He sat across from me, like I was a patient. Your behavior will determine your privileges, he said. If you cooperate, you'll earn trust again. I stared at him. You're not my father anymore. Something in his eyes flickered. Anger, control, something cold. He stood up, grabbed my chin, forced me to look at him. You don't understand the honor of this legacy, he hissed. We are not animals. We are chosen. When he left, I threw the tray of food at the camera and screamed. The oatmeal splattered across the lens, and for a second I couldn't see the red blinking light. That tiny victory felt like oxygen. That night, I found a loose metal edge on the side of the medical bed, a sharp corner. I used it to pry open the first aid kit and found a small scalpel sealed in plastic. My hands shook as I slipped it into my sock. It wasn't a weapon yet, but it was something they didn't control. And for the first time since that dinner, I let myself believe I might actually find a way out. By the third morning, I stopped crying. My throat was raw, my eyes burned, and I felt hollowed out. But something inside me had shifted, not broken, just hardened. They wanted obedience. I was going to give them performance. When Mom came down again, she looked surprised to see me calm. Have you come to your senses, sweetheart? She asked, placing the breakfast tray on the desk. I nodded slowly. I think I need to understand more. About the family? About what makes us so special. Her face lit up like a sunrise. Oh, Claire, I knew you'd come around. That afternoon, she brought me upstairs for the first time in days. My legs shook from disuse, but I kept my expression soft, compliant. She led me to the dining table, where she spread out binders and old parchment charts, tracing our pure lineage back centuries. She pointed to black and white photographs of sharp-faced ancestors and talked about selective pairing, preserving heritage, the sacred blood. I asked my careful questions, nodding like I was interested, but inside my pulse was a drumbeat of rage. While she rambled, I scanned the room. Exits, windows, cameras, locks. The front door had a digital keypad with a small LED display. I watched the code light up when Dad came in from the garage. 4 digits. Too quick to memorize this time, but I'd seen the order of his fingers. Dad noticed me watching and said, You'll earn that code when we can trust you again. I forced a smile. I want to earn it. He actually looked proud. It made my stomach twist. That night, they allowed me to shower upstairs. Supervised, of course. Mom waited outside the bathroom door, humming. I used the mirror's fog to write help backward, small enough that only steam would reveal it. It felt useless but symbolic. A piece of myself refusing to disappear. During that same trip, I spotted the small gray breaker box across the hall. Door slightly ajar, each switch labeled neatly. One read, basement suite. I filed it away. The next morning, I told Mom I was ready to meet Ethan again, the boy from the first introduction. She beamed and told Dad, See, she's finally embracing her role. When Ethan arrived, he looked worse than before. Thinner, pale. His parents came too, sitting across from us while Mom supervised every word. We made small talk about the weather, school, meaningless things. His mother bragged about his family's DNA longevity. When Mom turned away to pour coffee, Ethan leaned closer and whispered fast, voice trembling, My sister didn't survive this. There's a network that helps people like us find a way to call them. Before I could ask how, Mom turned back, smiling. That night, I sat in the dark basement, holding onto his words like oxygen. There was a way out. People on the outside knew. I looked up at the vent. Ashley, I whispered, we're getting out. Through the metal, I heard her soft lullaby start again, cracked and fragile, but maybe, just maybe, she'd heard me. The next few days became a blur of pretending. I ate the food they brought. I smiled when Mom told me how proud she was. I asked questions about dress fittings, wedding menus, fertility calendars, all while keeping my voice sweet and empty. Inside, I was memorizing everything. The pattern of the locks when the door opened, the sound of Mom's heels versus Dad's heavy steps, the time the house went quiet in the afternoon, when Mom left for errands. On the 4th morning, Dad brought more documents to review, contracts written in stiff legal language. This, he said, tapping a page, is the dowry agreement with Ethan's family. $50,000 to secure the union. You'll produce 5 children, minimum. If complications arise, we have contingencies. I stared at the signature lines and said, May I keep a copy? I want to study it. He looked at me with a kind of sick admiration. That's my girl. Responsible. As soon as he left, I memorized every clause I could. 5 children, fertility supervision, medical oversight. It was all written like I was property. That night, I couldn't sleep. The walls felt closer. I pressed my palm against the cold metal vent and whispered, Ashley, are you awake? A rustle. Then her voice, faint but steady this time. Yes. I met Ethan again. There's a network that helps people escape. Silence. Then, if you try, they'll kill you. Her voice cracked on the last word. I wanted to tell her I'd rather die than become what they wanted, but I couldn't make myself say it. I didn't want her to think I was giving up on her, too. The next afternoon, Mom came down alone. You've been so cooperative, she said, setting a glass of juice on the desk. Maybe you're ready to help with wedding planning upstairs, I nodded. Can I shower first? She smiled. Of course. In the bathroom, while she stood guard outside the door, I worked fast. I'd hidden a bobby pin behind the sink baseboard days ago. My hands trembled as I bent it into a hook and slipped it into my sock. It wasn't much, but after the scalpel, it was another small weapon. Back in the basement that night, I used both pins to test the bathroom lock. After hours of fumbling in the dim light, something inside the mechanism clicked. The door opened an inch, just an inch, but enough to prove I could pick a lock. I didn't sleep. My heart beat so loud, I was afraid the cameras would hear it. The next day during breakfast, I told Mom my stomach hurt. I'd stopped eating the night before, and now my hands were shaking for real. She frowned. Low blood sugar. I told you to keep up your nutrition. By late afternoon, I let myself collapse, on purpose, on the cold tile. My body convulsed from hunger and adrenaline. Mom screamed for Dad. He rushed down, panic all over his face. She's fainting. Get the car. They carried me upstairs and into the back seat. I kept my eyes half open, breathing shallow. For the first time in weeks, I was outside the house. The sunlight through the car window felt unreal. At urgent care, a nurse named Trish Campbell checked my vitals. She looked right into my eyes, like she could see past the performance. When Mom turned to fill out forms, I slipped a small folded note from my pocket into Trish's hand. She didn't react, just squeezed my fingers once. Hope, small, fragile, but real, flared in my chest for the first time. I wasn't alone anymore. When we got back from the clinic, I thought maybe things would change. Maybe Trish had already sent help. Maybe the police would come that night and break down the door. But the only thing that changed was the surveillance. Dad installed new cameras in the basement, one above the bed, another in the bathroom. For your safety, he said, while tightening the last screw. Mom stood behind him, arms crossed, face glowing with self-righteous calm. I sat on the edge of the bed, motionless. I couldn't let them see how my heart was racing. When they left, I turned my head just enough to see the red recording lights blink on. I whispered, barely audible, It's fine. They're scared. That night when Mom brought down dinner, she was chipper again. You're improving, sweetheart. Ethan's family was thrilled by your test results. We're moving the wedding up. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I almost dropped the tray. That soon? She smiled. The stars have aligned, your cycle's perfect, and the families are eager. As soon as she left, I grabbed the phone she'd given me, a locked, monitored device, and pretended to check my messages. There it was. The number for the fertility clinic. The one Trish had used to text reminders. I called it. A familiar voice answered, calm, steady. This is Rafaela Crawford speaking. How can I help you, Claire? I froze. Rafaela? Yes. Trish passed me your note. I'm a social worker. You need to be careful, but you're not forgotten. I'll call again pretending to confirm an appointment. Say you understand if it's safe. I whispered, thank you. Before I could say more, the lock clicked upstairs. I hung up fast and slid the phone under the mattress just as Mom opened the door. She brought in a white garment bag. Your dress fittings tomorrow. The next day, a seamstress came with pins and fabric samples, setting up in the living room. Mom hovered nearby, beaming. When the woman turned to grab a spool of thread, I saw it. A seam ripper glinting in the open supply box. My heartbeat roared in my ears. While Mom answered a call in the kitchen, I palmed it and slipped it into my sock. Metal against skin, cold grounding mine. Back in the basement, I tested the sharp edge on the wooden bed frame. Clean, precise. I could cut through tape, rope, maybe even wire. That night, the phone rang again. It was Rafaela's calm voice, using her clinic tone. Hi, Claire, just confirming your upcoming appointment. Will you be available next week? I said carefully, yes, I understand. She paused, then added, if anything changes, mention cramping in your lower right quadrant. That means you're in danger. Got it? Yes, I said, softly. After the call, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The cameras watched, the lights buzzed, the air felt electric. But now there were names in my corner, Trish and Rafaela, real people who knew I existed. I whispered through the vent, Ashley, hold on. I think help's coming. For a long time, she didn't answer. Then, faintly, the lullaby began again. And for the first time, it didn't sound broken. It sounded like a signal. The next few days felt like walking a tightrope over a pit. I had to act like I believed every word they said, like I was becoming the obedient daughter again. If I slipped even once, if they saw through me, it would all collapse. Mom was radiant, like this nightmare was her life's masterpiece. She'd glide around the house, on her phone, coordinating florists and caterers, humming to herself. Everything's coming together so beautifully, she'd say, glancing at me with pride that made my stomach twist. Dad handled the logistics, contracts, security, guest screening. He said that like it was an honor. Only approved bloodlines, he reminded me, tapping his temple. No outsiders, contaminating the event. Ethan's family was scheduled to arrive the night before the ceremony. I had 5 days left. Rafaela's clinic calls continued every 2 days, always disguised in medical language. She was planning something. I could hear it in her pauses. We'll be monitoring you closely, she'd say, which meant someone's coming, but I couldn't count on timing alone. I needed my own backup plan. During a supervised trip upstairs, I noticed something new, a copy of the basement key sitting on the sideboard in Dad's office, next to his security binder. I forced myself not to stare. I couldn't grab it yet. Too risky with Mom shadowing every move, but I memorized where it was. That same night, Ashley finally spoke more than one sentence through the vent. Her voice was shaky but urgent. Claire, they took my baby's blood this morning. Said it's for the records. I think they're cataloging them. My chest locked up. I'm getting us out, I whispered. Both of us. Silence then. You can't save me. Just run when you can. But I couldn't accept that. 2 nights before the wedding, something unexpected happened. Mom brought me upstairs after dinner and said, "You can sit with Ashley while I prepare your ceremony outfit." I didn't trust the sudden kindness, but I followed her anyway. Ashley sat on the couch, one baby in her arms, another asleep in a bassinet beside her. Her skin looked gray. Her eyes flicked toward Mom, then back to me. Mom left to take a call in the hallway. The moment she turned her back, Ashley's hand shot out, gripping mine hard. She pressed something small and cold into my palm. "Keep it," she whispered. When I opened my hand later, alone in the basement again, I almost cried. It was an old brass key, scratched, worn, but unmistakably one of Dad's. Ashley had risked everything to give it to me. That night, I tested it quietly when the house was asleep. The key slid into the lower lock of the basement door and turned. It didn't open all the way. The digital top locks stayed engaged, but it was half the battle won. I just needed a way to kill the power. I remembered the gray breaker box upstairs, labeled Basement Suite. If I could reach it, even for a few seconds, it might cut power to the locks. The next morning, while Mom fussed over dress fittings, I asked to use the bathroom. She waited outside, scrolling her phone. Through the open door, I could see the laundry area across the hall, and the breaker box still slightly open. My pulse thundered. I couldn't do it now. Not yet, but I could feel the plan solidifying in my chest. When I went back downstairs, I hid Ashley's key inside the hem of my sleeve. My hands shook as I whispered through the vent, "It's happening soon." Ashley's reply was faint, almost like she was speaking from underwater. "Then run fast, Claire. Don't look back." But I knew I would, because I couldn't live free, knowing she was still trapped. The night before the wedding, I didn't sleep. The house above me was alive with noise, doors opening, voices, the scrape of furniture being moved. I lay on the medical bed staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between each sound. At 4:00 a.m., silence. It was now or never. I got up quietly, heart hammering so hard I thought the cameras might pick up the rhythm. I moved the bobby pins and seam ripper from my sock into my sleeve, pressed Ashley's old key into my palm, and whispered toward the vent, "I'm going, Ash." For a moment, nothing. Then through the metal, her voice. Cracked but steady. "Run, Claire. Don't stop." I jammed the seam ripper into the outlet at the base of the wall, bridging it to the bed frame just like I'd planned. A flash, a pop, the smell of burnt plastic, then total darkness. The electronic locks clicked open with a heavy thud. 8 seconds. That's all I had. I sprinted up the stairs, breath sharp, adrenaline burning through every muscle. The lower lock turned perfectly with Ashley's key. I threw my weight against the door. Open. I bolted through the kitchen and straight to the front hall. Then a voice behind me, low and furious. "Claire." Dad. He must have been waiting, his hand clamped around my shoulder, dragging me backward. "You ungrateful little—" I twisted hard, the seam ripper slashing across his forearm. He yelled, startled more than hurt, and I ran. Mom appeared in her robe, face wild. "Claire, stop. You'll ruin everything." I didn't look back. I slammed the front door open and stumbled barefoot into the cold dawn. The air outside hit me like a slap. Real. Alive. "Help!" I screamed, running toward the street. "Someone, please, help!" A neighbor across the road froze mid-step, holding his newspaper. My parents came after me, shouting, "She's sick! She's confused!" He hesitated, like every bystander in every nightmare, and looked away. Then headlights flashed down the street, a gray sedan screeching to a stop. The driver's window rolled down. A woman's voice. "Claire, get in." Rafaela, I didn't think. I dove into the passenger seat and she floored it. Behind us, my father's fist hit the car window. Mom's face twisted into something inhuman. We didn't stop until we reached the hospital. Trish was waiting outside, already in scrubs. Inside, everything blurred. Questions, photos, legal forms. A soft blanket around my shoulders. Trish's calm voice. "You're safe now. I promise." But I didn't feel safe, not yet. Not while Ashley was still in that house. Over the next weeks, things moved painfully slow. Police reports, protective orders, shelters, interviews. Dad filed a missing person report. Mom claimed I'd been brainwashed by anti-family extremists. Their lawyer tried to paint me as delusional. But then Ethan reached out through Rafaela's network. He'd recorded his parents' conversations, just like I had. There were others, dozens, stuck in families like ours. The investigation went federal. When the warrant finally came through from my parents' house, I was sitting in the shelter cafeteria, staring at the wall. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my coffee. Evan Dean, the detective, called me that evening. His voice was steady but careful. "We got her, Claire. Ashley and the babies are safe. It's over." I didn't